One.
Okay.
Hello, amazing people. Welcome to the Rich Opinions podcast. I'm your host, Richard. This is the Rich Opinions podcast, the tech safe crossover that the tech safe podcast crossover that you never saw coming.
All right.
Today I'm here with Raymond. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
I
Thank you
mean,
so much for having me.
normally you be doing the intros, so how
Um,
does it feel being at the other side?
um, I'm trying to get used to it because yeah, it's weird sometimes when you are now the one being interviewed. But let's see how it goes. But I'm excited to be here.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so yes, the Tech Safe, the Rich Opinions podcast has a show called Code and Vibes. But today we are not exactly diving too much into, the tech stuff because I've been researching Mr. Raymond here and he's everything. He's a techie, he's a musician, he's a chef. I don't know, the list is so long. He's a writer. So
Right.
we are just talking about being multifaceted. How do you even manage like all these things? How do you put systems in place to be able
Mhm.
to not waste some away, more like so how do you do it? Let's get into it. How did you discover that you could be a creative, you could write, you can cook, do music, all of that?
Okay, so first I'll give the credit to my parents, my family. Since I was a child, I've always been curious, all right? And my curiosity has led me into trouble sometimes, but sometimes the trouble has also, built me up in different ways. So for those who meet me later in life, they are probably stunned by the many things I'm doing. Oh my God, this guy is like all over. Like he's on every social media platform, and he shows everything he does from the
Yeah.
cooking to, but those who have known me for a long time are not too surprised. All right. If the people who have known me for more than 10 years will realize that okay, this is actually Raymond. This is me just being me every day. So it's not like I'm trying to pick up things and now trying to show. No, cooking has always been a part of my life.
Yeah.
My mom, I have a big sister, but my mom made sure that we all learned how to cook because cooking is supposed to be a survival skill. It's not necessarily supposed to be
Right.
for a particular gender. Writing, I've always loved the English language. I've loved languages in general. So when I was younger, I wanted to become a journalist. All right, I've always loved Gideon Aikwe, Komla Dumo. They've been people that you used to look up to. I said I was going to be Komla Dumo during my days. So
Yeah.
even when Komla Dumo died, I was so shattered. I was like, I want to be in like the BBC. I'm not surprised I'm in the UK at the moment, even doing a podcast. Who
Right.
knows? The Texas podcast will get to the BBC someday. We never know. But
Yeah,
speaking has
hopefully.
always been a part of me. So all through my life, I've had the chance to be a senior prefect, where I've had a chance to stand in front of people. Standing in front of people, like the stage kind of stuff, has always been a part of my life. So I did that. Junior high school, I was a prefect. Primary, I was a prefect. Senior high school, I was a prefect. All of them head boys, senior assistant head boys. I've always
Yeah.
had that speaking ability. So I believe being around teachers who saw that skill exposed me to a lot of reading materials and also loving the dictionary and learning new words. I had one math teacher, Mr. Chu. I really respect him. He was a math teacher, but he spoke very eloquently and he had this very like his articulation was so good and he was always teaching us new words. So I was always fascinated by his class because it wasn't just going to be math and we are learning math, but he's teaching us very big words. And oh boy, I just loved
Yeah.
it. So he was one of my favorite teachers, to be very honest. And from this, I got to know at the time. That was why I got to know about some books. This particular book that was about grammar, I really can't remember it, but I was always in a creative class or a group that had to do with creativity. So the singing, I discovered my singing voice through my French teacher, Mr. Gbedema. So I was in a quartet. So it was it was a team of four, but I was the only boy. And at the time, because my voice hadn't broken, I had this very silky voice, which I still
Yeah.
use today on my feed. And so the four of us, and I was singing the highest parts too, so it didn't make sense, a guy who's among girls but singing the highest part. So we used to be invited together to sing at school events, all that kind of stuff, small events. So it became this small quartet that we used to sing a lot in the boarding house because my school had a boarding facility. We used to sing together. Like, it was a great time of discovering music. But the singing goes back when I was even much younger. I've sung in front of, like, our day, sang in front of the class, and also singing has been a part of it. But I think that was the first time I actually did like an official public singing where I knew that, okay, what I've been doing since I was a child is actually a thing. It's called singing. So the singing was there. The writing was the French language, which I loved through my friend teacher as well. I just one day, my dad travels a lot, so when he comes back with a lot of CDs and language CDs and all. So one day I chanced on one, and I was just fascinated by the conversation in French, and I went to school and I was like trying to mimic everything, and from there the desire was built, and that's how I started learning French. I went to Alliance Française, went there for like the after school um, vacation studies and all that. So just to sum it all, I think for me, when it comes to my journey and my life, it's been very pivotal because I have met people along the way who
Yeah.
have seen that skill and did not stifle it. I give my parents all the credit because they allowed me to do a lot of things. But the teachers and even the friends that came along the way who saw that I was able to do something. My podcast was is actually birthed from a conversation with my friends. You understand me?
Yeah.
Told them
Same.
that, okay, I talk, I do tech, and I like this kind of stuff. I want trying to do a podcast, but then all my friends are in the creative, like my core folk. One is a podcaster, one is also a creative. I mean, like two are podcasters. One is also a like 1 man thousand. He's a lot of
Yeah.
things altogether. Literally 1 man thousand, right? My friend
Yeah.
Safwa Kona is also an actor. So Telios at the same time, he is a lawyer. He's also a podcaster. The podcast that he has put on hold. So all of these things. So being around people who were doing things that were very similar to me. One part of me when I was starting my podcast was like, oh my god, how am I going to like do this? Like, are they going to think I'm copying them and all that? But I spoke with them, and then they helped me, carve my idea and think about the way I want to go about it. And they've been very supportive. Even times when I wanted to quit, they were super supportive. So I would say it's been very, it's been very much meeting the right people at the right time who allowed me to explore my curiosity in the right way.
Yeah.
And how am I balancing all of it? To be very honest, I wouldn't like to sound like superhuman and come like, okay, oh, I have it all figured out. No,
Figure
there
it
are
out.
times where others have like other parts of my life have struggled more than others. The cooking I recently picked up again because I realized that it's a hobby that was bringing me very much like joy. But there was a time where I stopped cooking because a lot of things were weighing me down. So my life is very much planned. When I wake up, my calendar, my reminders, and my notes are my friends. So even this podcast is scheduled. There's a scheduled time to pray, read the Word of God. Now I schedule those times doesn't mean I'm necessarily following it all the time. Let me be very honest. But then having it in my calendar allows me to know what is supposed to be done, what needs to be done today, what I can move up and down. So that way, even when I miss maybe my personal reading time or my personal development time or whatever it is, or my side hustle, brainstorming, my create whatever it is, even the time to edit my podcast is on my schedule. I realized that I learned this from a finance video that what you don't track or what you don't track you cannot measure. You understand me? So I believe having all of these little tools here and there to keep me organized has gone a long way to help me do the many things that people see me do and admire. Yeah, that was a long one, but I hope it was worthwhile.
Yeah. So I think it's always like best to have people in your corner that are going to support you through the different phases of your life and
Mhm.
even help you invest in what will seem like an interest, but then in the end it's something that either gets profitable or makes you a better person, right? Yeah. and I could relate to most of the things. Like personally, I also like the English language a lot. I mean, now I'm not investing a lot of time into it. Before, I used to be very much interested. I remember when I was in GHS, I also had like a teacher. It's called Mr. Khan, and he used to teach us social studies. And sometimes I think what was the other one? He was also like the choir master at the school, and the way he spoke the English language was like it was just beautiful. And there are times I've been to the office, I've seen him like reading through thesauruses, I've seen him reading. At some points, he was literally learning Latin, right? So it got me interested in like the languages a lot. Even though I have never I didn't invest in trying to learn other languages. There were times I was on YouTube like 24/7 looking at there's this channel called World Friends, just listening to different accents and languages, trying to figure out where people are from. Like I just had that interest there. And the podcast is the same. When I was in uni, one time like we're in the room with my two friends, and I think we're listening to something or somebody was playing a podcast, and then I was like, I feel like I can do this thing. Right? I like to talk, so I can actually get this done. And there are a lot of things that I just like mention and then just forget about it. And then one of my friends was like, so why don't you like do it? And he actually went ahead, looked through how I can host a podcast and everything. He was like, yeah, go for it. And they're still like very super supportive. So yeah, it's very nice to have such people in your corner. With writing, it's the same. Like I don't even know if it was a discovery, but then when I was in school, it's the same thing with like the English language. When it's time to write articles, when you have to write like letters, when people panic, that's when I'm actually excited because I'm able to like just bring these articles out of my head, out of nowhere, right?
Right.
So when I opened your Medium page and I saw that I've also written about two or three like articles on Medium, like oh there's a lot of similarities here, except I don't do cooking yet. So yeah, but it is it's beautiful to see somebody that's able to like you keep mentioning your parents being able to steer your child in the direction of their interest so that they don't just like waste talents and then forcing them to do just one thing. Because I think that's one of the things that we suffer here in Africa is almost like go to school, become a lawyer the rest of your life and die, or doctor the rest of your life and die.
Right.
And then there are a lot of things a lot of layers that is never uncovered. So like
Mm.
you just kind of pass away or it kind of dies out. So
Right.
it's pretty interesting to find somebody that is committed to making his interests better over time. I think what I would have to learn from you is learning to schedule everything because on even though I'm on the 9 to 5 and I'm still kind of in your space when it comes to tech because I do analytics and you are like senior, you're in science. So um you're on the 9 to 5, you want to also get people to um, come on your podcast, find time to edit your podcast and all of those things. Yeah. So I
I
think
forgot to
that's
mention that I'm also the music director in my church.
you see, and I'm in
So
a media team in my church as well.
very
So
so
there's
the
like
thing is so the thing is what I'm learning is as multifaceted people who have a lot of interest in all of that, the danger of it is that we try to do all the things at the same time. So I've realized in my life that there are times where I have to outsource. I podcast along the
okay,
line. I got a few of my mentees who came along the way who were helping me with a lot of things. So they were helping me with some basic um, editing. I was using that to coach them in so many ways. So there's a place for outsourcing, right? There's also a place for automation. You get it.
right.
I leverage a lot of AI in doing a lot of my things because if I can write a prompt that can give me a skeleton that I can develop on, that saves me a lot of time to be able to do other things. I've even injected AI in preparing my choir for rehearsals. I've taught them a lot of tools of how to
Yeah.
transpose YouTube videos before rehearsal. So before you come to rehearsal, you've already listened to
Yeah.
the song, you're good to go. So that way, the time that I spend in doing a lot of the things, when I go to rehearsal during that maybe for example from 7 to like say 10, what I'm doing is I'm just fine tuning and just what losing like tightening all the loose bolts. But it's not now that I'm about to now teach you basic harmony. Even yesterday we spent a lot of time. They were asking a lot of questions about music theory, and I was explaining to them and trying to break some things down, all of that to them, because I also love. I don't. I'm not a surface musician, and I think that's one thing that I almost I naturally do. I think my curiosity. That's why I said my curiosity can be very detrimental to me sometimes, because I'm one
Yeah.
person that sometimes likes to drill and drill a bit too deep and to maybe